have farmers. I love farmers. I won 80%, 85% of the farmers, and I love them, and I'm never going to do anything to hurt our farmers.
We've got a real disaster with this tariff deal.
The outlook is so bleak financially.
Now, I've never been as worried as I am now.
Right now, it's predicted soybean farmers can lose $200 or more per acre on this crop. A farmer like myself, we have 1,200 acres of soybeans. That's $240,000 of loss.
It's going to be tough to get some of that business back that we're losing. Retaliatory tariffs has caused us to be less competitive in the global marketplace.
The way things are, there won't be a farmer left in 5 years if things don't change, because our expenses are so high. We would a lot rather have free markets than a hand.
How many of you guys have been seeing videos like this clip? There are multiple variations of this clip all over the internet right now, from TikTok to YouTube, Facebook, everywhere. Any place social media is played, there's agricultural videos and a lot of self-proclaimed experts, which mostly put out just totally wrong content. That was the point of this channel, to correct. Then there's a lot of battling between left and right. You're seeing a lot of blame being placed on the opposition, the opposing party. And that's the first sign of a failed country monetarily, when the people that may be in charge or not in charge blame the other party for their problems. It's usually not the other party to blame for the problems. It's usually where the money's coming from. It's the elephant in the room, but never gets the blame. Let's watch some more clips and break it down.
This is awful discouraging. You know, we do our very best to grow a good crop to feed the world, and then we can't hardly give it away.
Bachmann blames President Trump for the soybean crisis, even though he voted for him. He says new tariffs are forcing China to buy soybeans from Argentina and Brazil. Now many Iowa farmers face selling this year's crop at a huge loss.
The way things are, there won't be a farmer left in 5 years if things don't change, because our expenses are so high, and the crop is worth less than it was 30 years ago.
Bachmann survived the farm crisis during the 1980s. It led to thousands of farm foreclosures. If the federal government offers crop payments to help farmers, Bachmann says he'll say no thanks.
We would a lot rather have free markets than a handout.
Bachmann recently asked Iowa Senator Charles Grassley for help with those free markets.
I told him that the 1980s farm crisis is going to look like a picnic compared to today if things don't change, and change fast.
That was a news clip floating around the internet off of, I believe, an Iowa news station. He claims in that video that he won't take the bailout money. I would call bullshit on that. Almost everybody will be taking the, quote, bailout money, just like farmers always do, because they would rather take that than to change every single dynamic about their operation or go out of business. And there's a lot of controversy on those payments.
I just want to check in real quick that the farmers that are going bankrupt in like Nebraska or whatever don't grow our food, right? They don't grow food. They grow commodities. They grow soybean, wheat, and corn that they then sell to commodities brokers, middlemen, who then sell it to China and other countries, and sometimes to the U.S. government and lots of other people. And those middlemen, those brokers, aren't buying it because we can't sell it to foreign countries, or they're not buying it because of Trump's tariffs. But our food comes from farms in California and Oregon and Idaho and some in Florida, and like lots from foreign countries. So like these tariffs are affecting commodities farmers, because not only do they sell their commodities to those brokers, which aren't buying, but they paid for the gas in their tractors and their fences and their seeds and their fertilizer with loans from the federal government. So not only is the commodities that they grow, which in a lot of the places where they grow them, they shouldn't be growing them because it's not a suitable climate and they have to overuse water and pesticides anyway. But all those loans are coming due too. So
the extreme left and the extreme right are both exactly the same. Yes, they may fight for totally opposite theories or viewpoints, But both of them are the same. They're the same in the sense that neither one of them knows how anything works. And most of what they believe in, or most of what they fight for, is built on complete ignorance. Now, that was an example of an extreme leftist who gave her viewpoint on agriculture. And she has absolutely no clue what she's talking about. She says commodities when she refers to food as being something not a commodity, which is 100% wrong. Apples, oranges, pears, anything, including soybeans, is a commodity. If you consume it and it's expendable, it's a commodity. Additionally, she clearly has no clue how these commodities, as she calls them, go into cattle feed. They're used for different types of oils, fuel, fibers, and only about 20% of the soybeans go to China. So there's a clear evidence of a misinformation video with somebody who has no clue what they're talking about whatsoever. Now, she goes on to say that we douse our fields in chemicals, which farmers do not do. Most farmers, including our own farm, often use barely just enough chemicals. Sometimes you wish you could go out and put more on just because you would like to clean up some extra weeds, or there's some noxious weed pressure, but the budget doesn't allow for it. So if anything, we're probably using not enough chemicals. And she also states that these loans were tied to the government. Yeah, a few farmers probably have government loans, but not many. Most farmers have what's called an operating note, which is just from a bank. That's not a government operating note, although there are some available. While I don't believe that the statistics of those are very high. So if you go to the bank and you borrow operating money and you have no way to repay it, then the shit hits the fan. She did touch on several subjects, which I will bring up throughout additional clips here going forward.
Rural America got scammed. 50 plus years ago, Secretary of Agriculture Earl Butz under Nixon, he went out to the land grant colleges around America and he advocated for, bigger is better and America's going to feed the world. And, the problem with that is that only worked because there were ag subsidies. That was never an economically viable model, and I'll explain here in a second. The problem with this idea of bigger is better, feed the world is it ended up creating global food inflation, both here and abroad. What you have now is, due to that toxic policy, is America now produces 40% more food than they actually consume. And that.
So according to this guy, you have global food inflation, but at the same time, you produce much more than you consume. So you have an oversupply, but somehow have inflation. Dude, somebody needs to explain to you that inflation is caused by shortages, not an overabundant supply. That's what we have right now.
That is hitting head on with the tariffs, and this is going to end pretty brutal. Okay, a bailout is not going to solve this problem. I would shudder to imagine what would happen if we would see a 2 on the front of corn and an 8 on the front of soybeans. I think that would probably finish off what was started in the 80s. And ironic, because the baby boomer generation that's farming now is grandparents. They were 20-something kids in the 70s. Now they're trying to leave farming, and there's no way that this is going to work. To put this in context, a farmer in high-yield corn country is raising about 250 bushels per acre. And right now they're about $1 a bushel underwater. And that's $250 an acre. And an average farmer raises a couple thousand acres of corn. So he's going to lose $500,000 on his corn. I think the delta on the loss on soybeans is even broader than that. So my fear now is that during budget reconciliation, they will go after the ethanol mandate. And if they go after the ethanol mandate, it will just gut what's left of rural America mainstream, or Main Street.
Now, this guy's sources were himself, so keep that in mind when you're viewing his opinion. He is right that ending the ethanol mandate would gut rural America. However, I don't see it being done, as that would add significant financial pressure onto the gasoline market.
We've got this farm crisis now, and this president should deal with this farm crisis right now. I'm hearing from bankers. I'm hearing from people that are getting pressed by their bankers to maybe sell part of their farm. So they wanted to sell to somebody that when they build up their equity, they might be able to buy it back. We haven't had this kind of stress in agriculture since the 1980s. Putting 50% tariffs on things that have steel in them when you can't buy those things in the United States and you need them for your tractor to be finally manufactured. There shouldn't be tariffs on things that you can't get in the United States. Why drive up the price of John Deere's because of a tariff on something they need for the tractor that they can't even get in the United States? It's a stupid policy. My message is, as I see it from my state of Iowa, it's beginning to look like the 1980s agriculture depression all over. Congress was too slow to respond in the 1980s. Thousands of farmers went out of business in the 1980s, and that should concern all of us, because with only 2% of the people producing all the food for the 98%, we can't let the destruction of the family farmer happen in 2025 like it did in the 1980s.
In those two clips are Chuck Grassley of Iowa voicing his opinion on what's affecting agriculture and what can be done to fix it. Chuck Grassley is one of the last few advocate voices we have left on the private side, although nature will be taking care of him soon. We need some younger guys to step up and voice up their opinion. And while large ag advocate groups are doing that, such as the Farm Bureau, those are not really the groups that we want to be voicing things. We need younger people involved in ag stepping up to the plate.
This is such a good question on my last video about those farms that are going bankrupt, and why don't they grow food that we eat? Why don't they grow what's called diversified vegetables, which is the fruits and vegetables we buy at the grocery store? Why don't those farms grow food? Because we don't subsidize food in this country. We subsidize commodities, which means the federal government will not subsidize any fruits and vegetables that you grow. The subsidies we provide, the most are to soybeans, corn, cotton, wheat, feed for cattle, but we don't subsidize any fruits and vegetables. And how you get subsidies is direct loans from the federal government to pay for seeds, starts, fertilizer, gas, fences, to buy land. It also comes in the form of crop insurance, which is getting more and more expensive because it is very difficult to afford crop insurance for diversified vegetable farms. But it's subsidized by the federal government for people who grow commodities. And there's other ways we provide subsidies for commodities growers and none for vegetable farmers. Anyway, that's why they don't grow food. They're not paid for it. They wouldn't make any money, and it's really hard. But such a smart question. Thank you for asking.
Oh God, she's back. That lady goes by the username QueerMom, which you can just pretty much figure out where she's at in life based on her username. We'll just chalk that up to stupid shit brought to you by the TikTok algorithm. And I want to talk more about what she claims is food going forward. But again, she mentions those loans, so I did a little research because I didn't put this video together in the last 2 minutes. I actually put this video together over a couple days. Did a little research. Those loans from the FSA are absolutely fractional in comparison to just banks, farm credits, or regular banks. So clearly she's just like everyone else online who doesn't know how to use their Google search bar to research any information whatsoever. Then she goes on to talk about subsidies and how only commodities, which again, she's using food as something different when it's a commodity. but she's saying that they are subsidized. Well, she needs to go check definitions of subsidies as tax code applies as a subsidy. And thanks to that Ag Talk community on TikTok, it brought me to this guy's channel. How many of you guys watch this guy? He's pretty popular on TikTok here, with a pretty heavy following. And he's been talking about agriculture in several videos. I cannot stand them because it's so filled with misinformation that I inevitably end up turning the channel off or having to block him on most devices just to bear watching any more TikTok. But let's watch one of his videos.
The way that some of you guys are content with selling out our country and giving up on everything else because you're worried about a soybean market with one of the worst customers we've ever had. As mentioned before, high volume customer does not mean good customer. There's a lot of finger pointing on what administration to blame for what. And you know what we should do? We should go back 50 years and start pointing fingers at administrations that allowed a lot of our manufacturing to leave this country.
No, dumbass, you should be blaming the Federal
There's been a redistribution
Reserve.
of wealth in this country that too many just can't comprehend. Outsourcing manufacturing has been a real problem for our country. Another thing is the immigration problem. Look at the meat industry. So immigration is where a lot of the labor supply comes from meat processing, right? And you could say you can't get Americans that want to do that, but that's not true. If you've never heard about it, look into it. The 1985-1986 strike at Hormel, when the union went on strike. It used to be a really good job to be a union meat cutter. And somewhere along the line, they broke that. And they were able to replace those people with cheaper labor. Those union meat cutters were middle class. Now, are the people, the immigrants that replaced them, considered middle class? Are their wages high enough to make middle class? I bet not. People talk about progress and how we're better off going forward. Don't be stuck in the past. But the simple fact of the matter is, there are manufacturing jobs where somebody could have raised a family, had their spouse stay home, raise the kids, buy a house, buy a new car. And we've chased that out of our country. And you could say, well, then it was too expensive, right? But that expense wasn't necessarily to the consumer, it was corporate profits. So the price of goods could go down, but if the median, wage of the middle class goes down, they're not getting ahead. You're just making the poor more poor and the rich very rich. This thing is so much bigger than soybeans. But the way some of you guys are so concerned about your soybean market that you are willing to sell out the rest of our country just to get a better price for the beans from a customer that doesn't want to buy from us. They're investing in South America, and before you blame that on any president, maybe you could go back to Carter. That's when the South American expansion really
Before you
started.
blame him a president, go blame him a president.
Right? Oh, and Reagan didn't help it. A lot of that manufacturing left our country under Reagan. Take a look around at the middle class for a minute. What middle class jobs are not going to be replaced? Trucking used to be a really good living for people.
Let's just speed this shit
And
up.
they've gone out of their way to try and replace the American trucking workforce with cheap grain. Yes, and you guys are worried about soybean market. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Quit importing agricultural products into our country and let's just grow our own stuff.
There we
Maybe
go.
we don't grow so
There
many
we go.
corn and soybeans.
There's some really stupid shit on the internet. And that guy's channel probably takes the cake for the dumbest shit I've heard yet. I think his heart's in a good place, and he may have some interesting equipment feed videos. Maybe that's how my algorithm got involved. But when it comes to talking about things on a global scale, he needs to just shut the fuck up. Because he doesn't have a clue. Yet again, another guy who says, produce food and quit importing food. This is a map of the United States. This is literally just Google Maps. And I'm going to have to break out the sarcasm here because how dumb are you motherfuckers that are saying produce more food?
produce food. We produce food. Corn and soybeans usually ends up going to some sort of a food source, such as cattle feeding or whatever. Yes, we produce more than we consume domestically. And the global balance sheets have exploded. Now, why has the global balance sheet exploded? Why did China all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, decide to go to Brazil? Gee, I'm sure it had nothing to do with the fact that their currency was much, much cheaper, and it was much, much cheaper to import from Brazil to the United States, and they had a large supply available. So if you're going to go down, you're going to go shop for a new TV, and you got Walmart or Costco. Costco is just destroying Walmart in price. Are you going to go to Walmart? No, you're probably going to go to Costco. You go where the cheapest is at to buy the same thing. That's what they did. They went to Brazil and bought beans. That encouraged larger production. Meanwhile, all the United States was consumed about was protecting their damn dollar. Keep that dollar high so that we can keep importing things. When a high dollar occurs, you can import stuff real cheap. You ever heard the saying import deflation and export inflation? Meaning they get rid of the dollar, which is inflationary, and then they import cheap shit with that dollar. That's part of being a reserve currency of the world there. That's how it works. So as far as producing all this food, I live in Iowa. There really isn't much for other things in Iowa besides corn and soybeans. Yeah, we could produce tomatoes, cucumbers, squash, whatever, pumpkins. And you know what happens with pumpkins? Where am I selling these pumpkins? Where am I selling these pumpkins? Am I going to join the other 85 guys that are at the Menards or the Home Depot parking lot on their tailgates with a whole box of pumpkins? Am I going to go put in 55 acres of tomatoes? And where am I selling these tomatoes to? Down in the local community of 5,000 people, where there's already 25 other backyarders that are doing the same exact damn thing. You know, and am I going to make $200-300 an acre producing these tomatoes? Am I going to be able to afford $8,000 an acre land producing these tomatoes? And for you guys that obviously don't even know how to use a Google search bar, you could just simply look and see that there's like 250,000 acres of tomatoes. The whole United States feeds the whole United States. It doesn't take shit for acres. I mean, the county I live in is more acres than that. The county, not a state, the county. So I could put half the county to tomatoes and it would flood the market so horrifically bad. 20% of the beans go to China, soybeans, 20%. That's like 16.5 million acres that you'd have to cut out just to say, okay, now we're at domestic use only. And you're going to replace that with what, tomatoes at 100,000 acres? What am I doing with the other 15,900,000 acres? You know, growing squash, pumpkins. And don't forget that pretty much anything growing across the center belt of the United States here is going to have... I mean, do you guys not have a backyard garden? I mean, you plant the shit in what, when the snow goes off in about May, and you get one crop throughout the summer, and then by September it's done. So, I mean, everybody's pretty much going to be... I mean, all this prime growing soil is going to pretty much come online at the exact same time. So we're going to go flood the living shit out of the supermarkets in a very select amount of time with all this extra produce and sell in the back of our pickups to sell it. And then what? Then what do we do in the winter? What do we do about January? Oh, that's right, they import it. Now, if I were to grow a whole bunch of this produce, say I grew a whole bunch of produce, and I went down to my local Hy-Vee, or Kroger, or wherever grocery store is. Got my grocery store. Hey, I got a whole bunch of produce here. Oh, you'd have to talk to the manager. Go out here, talk to the manager. Yeah, I got a whole bunch of produce here. I can supply you guys for a certain amount of time. Well, sorry, sir. I'm not in charge of buying. I just work for the corporation. You'd have to get a hold of the corporation to sell this to. Well, who do I get a hold of? Well, we're not really going to give you information. So you go call the 1-800 phone number on the corporation's website, and you get a hold of a secretary that works there that never or ever is going to place you up to a CEO. If you have any luck calling us, I'll tell you what, I'll give you guys an open challenge. Go bitch about your John Deere product and call the CEO this afternoon and talk to him directly. Good fucking luck. I have sued corporations and still never talked to the CEO. You do not talk to the CEO. These people hide behind 50 walls of cardboard to where you could take a nail file and chip away for the next 30 years and never get through 2 of the layers. You're never going to talk to this person, ever. These places are so large and set up that you're not going to make deals with them. Yeah, I'd like to flood your markets with tomatoes here during the next 1 month period, because that's the only time span that my weather allows for tomato production. And then thereafter, I guess I don't know what you guys are going to do. And has anybody actually, again, checked that Google search bar to realize that, like, coffee and things don't even grow in the United States? I mean, a few select areas of tropical climate. I mean, we don't even have the climate for it. You have to have trading partners, period. But to have a trading partners, you have to have trade that doesn't encourage or discourage places to go. When Costco's 60% cheaper than Walmart for the exact same items and quantity of items, pretty much Walmart's going to go broke. So the bigger picture and the bigger problem is the Federal Reserve and the entire monetary system. This is a dollar index chart. Dollar index, meaning exchange rate. See how it was in a long-term downtrend, then it kind of bounced around and started to go up, and then went way up after 2014 when the Fed implemented their 2% mandate, which controls or discourages the amount of dollars in the market, supply and demand, control everything. So you controlled the markets, the dollar's risen ever since. But see how this was a downtrend? Now, let's just go click the page here and go to soybeans. So let's look at the exact same time frame as soybeans. See when that dollar was going down? See how the price of beans was going up? Then you see around here when they put that mandate in, and see how the price of beans has kind of been sideways down. Hasn't done very well. Went up here, and it's kind of been down. If you were to average a line through the center here. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to understand this chart. Dollar goes down, makes it cheaper to export. Cheaper to export means that you're going to encourage more buyers due to the exchange rate. That drives the price up. More demand. Higher demand, price goes up. Lower the demand, price goes down. So higher the exchange rate, price goes down. Very simple. Are any of those tomato farmers or cucumber farmers, are any of those guys running all brand new 8R John Deere tractors and basking in their new Escalades? Probably not. It's just like any other commodity growing that's got a fairly low margin in it. So I just went to Omaha, Nebraska here, typed in grocery stores. That's all I did. Google Maps and grocery stores out of Omaha, Nebraska. And I was surprised I actually did find some that were organic stores. But are those organic stores empty? I don't grow organic, and I'm pretty sure that those stores have adequate supply. So yeah, I'm sure there's probably the demand for a little more tie-up, a little more production in certain things. But are any of these stores actually going empty? No, they're not. All the time I see, I think I'm going to have to get into organic. I think, where are you going to market it? Well, I'll give another open challenge. Let's go to this organic store here. The one that's on Google here. We'll just go there together. We're going to go find the manager. We're going to see if we can tie up with him. And I just really want to go in there, and I really want to say, let's make a bunch of business deals. And then what happens when a drought comes through and I can't deliver on that? Did you have a contract? Are you going to be sued? I just want some of these people that want to explain to me how life could be so much better and how we could just make buku money and I could have that new Escalade and everything would be hunky-dory if we would have this Whole Foods market, have this contract with them where we could deliver them a certain amount of whatever it is. I'll grow some cherries, even though they don't grow worth of shit in Iowa here. The reason there's so many corn and soybeans grown is because that's where the markets are at. That's what pushed the markets, where the markets went. That's where there's profit margins. Industries follow profit margins. Now, what if 100,000 acres in the United States did come out and go to tomatoes? Then those tomatoes that were grown in Brazil now all of a sudden 100,000 more acres of the United States is tomatoes, so it's not soybeans, it's tomatoes instead. Now in Brazil, gee, we can't export we can't send the United States our tomatoes because they grow their own tomatoes now. So what we'll do is we'll tear up the ground and put it to soybeans. That didn't solve anything. It didn't solve anything. It's a global balance sheet. That just means that Brazil had more soybeans and we got more tomatoes. Then here comes January, and there's nothing like pulling a fresh tomato out of your deep freeze. Brazil, I'd really like to have that fresh tomato. Well, sorry, we decided to destroy all our tomato plants because you guys weren't buying anymore. Does one farmer with 100 head of cows somehow better or worse than 100 farmers with 1 cow? What if it's 2 farmers with 50 cows? And what if the cow only makes $100 a head actual profit margin? That's why the one farmer has 100, so he can make a living. Because if all farmers, 100, had 1, they wouldn't make a living. He'd still be working in town. All it matters is profit margin and total quantity. It does not matter at all about how many, God, bring back these small farms. Why? What difference does it make? If you have 55 million small farms producing 16 billion bushel corn crop, but you only need 13 billion, then why couldn't you just produce it with 2 farmers? I mean, the total quantity of corn's the same. It's a globe, people. You have a total amount of demand and a total amount of supply. That's all it really comes down to on global markets. What happens is when you have high currency here and you have cheap currency here, you have an economic distortion which promotes this to produce more and this to produce less, or this country to be in trouble or this country wouldn't be. The elephant in the room here that never gets addressed is our monetary system. I have done social media for years, and again, I'm going to open up the open challenge. Somebody can sign a contract with an attorney with me, and there's going to be an open contract challenge, because there's always somebody who's going to use some miracle product fertilizer that's going to out-yield me. Yet, if I were to split a field, and they were to use their ways, and I was to use my ways, and whoever winner can pay the difference, they never want to put their money where their mouth is. It's the exact same thing with this whole food argument, and this whole farm crisis argument right now. All these guys are saying, we gotta go organic, I gotta produce these other things, I gotta produce fresh fruits and vegetables. How come none of you are? How come out of, 15 years I've been doing social media, I've had an open challenge on here saying, okay, you come to my house, we'll get on the phone together, we'll get in the pickup together, we'll go find a place to sell these products to. We're going to go call that CEO and hassle him, we're going to get these products going. How come nobody's stepped up and taken on that challenge yet? It becomes increasingly apparent that farmers will bitch and complain and have all these miracle solutions, and most of them will just go broke, force consolidation, go get shitty entry-level jobs for the rest of their lives, and it'll just be the cycle of life of America continuing. Because I guarantee you that somebody will go broke, sell it to a bigger farmer and investor 10 times before they will ever go put some of their personal money into an organic food store. So again, my open challenge, it's open. Come find me in western Iowa a viable, high-turn additional market. I haven't found it yet. You guys find it for me. And for the guys that say, oh, we got to go to an organic food store, you got to have that organic food store. How come not a single one of you guys have commented, shows up on that Google search bar as of having opened an organic food store? And how come the guys are blaming the big corporations, and it's big corporations that cause these problems, and it's the corporations' profit margin? How come you never bring up inflation and buying capacity of your dollar? And if it is a big problem, then why would you vote for Trump and pass a big beautiful bill that give them the biggest tax deductions in history? If they're a major problem, then why give them the world? Why wouldn't you vote for the extremist who wants to completely dissolve the entire corporation, get rid of the corporate structure? The internet is absolutely filled with the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life right now. And that's what I was hoping to correct on this channel. And all this video did is just really call out some hypocrisy.
So we're going to continue going forward with the educational data videos. If you guys have comments, please drop them below to where I can answer or reply to it with more information. Thanks for watching.